the fuck should I sit? Like this? Or fuck, I don't know. Like this? Or like this? That's cool, right? People think I'm cool. I don't know if that's cool. So today I'm going to be doing a review, one of many reviews that I've seen on YouTube of the Barnes 4-wheel drive aluminum 1-ton steering linkage kit for Jeep JK.
Come on, you p.
So I noticed a couple weeks ago that my drag link ball joint was going bad in my JK, and it was a stock or factory OEM tie rod drag link assembly that's on this. I do wheel this quite often, so I decided that I wanted to get a 1-ton kit, and I started looking around and quickly found that these 1-ton kits are fairly expensive. So Terraflex, Metal Cloak, Yeti, a bunch of companies out there, but they're all around $1,000. That gets you, your drag link and your tie rod, as well as, the ball joints at the ends. So I started doing some research on YouTube and found a company named Barnes4WD Drive, and they make all kinds of custom kits for these. And they had a aluminum flip kit, 1-ton steering linkage setup for the JK, and it was $400. So that's what I bought. I bought that kit, and then I also bought an additional stabilizer bracket that is a little bit prettier, a little bit more stout that I didn't get to use. We'll get into that here later. I also, after buying this kit, had to buy a track bar relocation kit because of the flip kit. So we'll get into that real quick. When you do a flip kit on one of these, so basically what you're doing is you have your knuckle and you're moving it from the bottom of the knuckle for your drag link to the top. And that basically gets rid of this angle on your drag link, and it makes it more horizontal, which is supposed to give you better ride performance, ride qualities, not as much bump steer, especially if you have a lifted Jeep. My JK has a 2.5 or 3-inch lift. I don't remember exactly, but it's somewhere around there. So it's a mild lift, and it's on 35s. So I decided to get the flip kit just because, I wanted a little bit better ride quality. Obviously, I know it's a Jeep. It's not going to ride perfect. It's on big tires. It's not going to ride perfect. But if I can make it better, then I want to make it better. So that's what I tried to do. So after I installed the drag link and tie rod kit with the stock track bar location, I noticed that like on hard accelerations, the steering wheel would pull to the left. And if I held the steering wheel straight when I hit the gas hard, the Jeep would instantly just turn right. And then if I hit the brakes hard, the steering wheel would pull right, or if I held the steering wheel, it would turn left. So did some research and found out that, you got to keep your drag link and your track bar parallel. You can't have them at different angles, just because it changes suspension geometry, and when, the axle gets bumped on the passenger side, the track bar is going to want to shift the axle a certain way, and then the drag link is going to want to shift the axle a certain way, and that's what causes your steering to move or the car to wander. So I had to buy a relocation kit. That was another $150 that I wasn't, expecting to pay, but it is what it is. And that's fairly easy to install as well. The downside to that is that the relocation kit now is really close to the frame, just because I have such a mild lift on this Jeep, that when I hit big bumps or, I'm driving into a parking lot and I hit a pretty steep curb, you can hear the relocation kit slamming onto the frame. So I may contact Barnes 4-wheel drive and see if I can just get a different joint and flip my drag link back to stock location, because I haven't really noticed much of a driving change. If not, it may be a little bit worse. I don't know. Could be because of the aftermarket parts I installed, but I doubt it. So long story short, if you have a 3-inch lift or less on your Jeep, I would just get the standard kit that Barnes4WD Drive sells, just because you don't really need the flip kit, and at least in my experience, it hasn't changed the drive quality at all. So I ordered the kits from Barnes on like a Sunday morning, and I didn't get it. I got it about 8 days later, so I got it on a Monday the following week. It took 4 days for them to process the order and about 4 days for them to ship it. When I got it and brought the Jeep into the shop and was starting to put it on, I decided to roll the aluminum bars across the floor to see if they were bent. And sure enough, the drag link and the tie rod were bent. So I took a video of it, I sent it to Barnes4WD Drive, and I still haven't heard anything from them. And it's been about a week. So I'm gonna have to call them on Monday, today is a Saturday, and see what they can do about that if it's common. I did see some videos of people complaining that the aluminum tie rods were bending just under daily driving use, not even wheeling with them. So that's a little concerning. But for 400 bucks, you know, if it lasts me a couple months or through the summer or whatever, I will just replace it with something else, chromoly, if it doesn't work out. Also too, the steering stabilizer bracket that I bought, the additional steering stabilizer bracket, I bought it because it looked a lot more stout, it looked prettier. And on the website, it says that it's designed to work with the factory equipment that's on the Jeep. And one thing that I noticed is, and this is my fault, I didn't read the website, but they say that this bracket doesn't come with a bolt. And the bolt that holds the steering stabilizer on this Jeep, the factory bolt, does not bolt into this bracket. So this bracket takes a 1/2 inch by 1/4 thread bolt. And the downside to that is that bolt is too fat to fit in the stock steering stabilizer that's on this Jeep. So I'm gonna have to buy an aftermarket stabilizer or modify the stock stabilizer to accommodate that so I can use that clamp. So now I'm just running the steering stabilizer bracket that came with the steering kit, which in my opinion is kind of flimsy, it doesn't look good, and you know, the U-bolts aren't the strongest material in my opinion for holding something like this on. But you know, we'll see how it holds up over time. Another thing to note too, when you do a flip kit, if you get the standard mount drag link on these, you don't have to do any modifications to your knuckle. But if you do get the flip kit, you do have to modify the knuckle with you have to waller out that hole with a 7/8 drill bit. And then they give you a little stainless steel sleeve that fits in there so that you can flip that tie rod into the knuckle. One thing about that is a 7/8 drill bit is not super commonplace, at least in the automotive industry. And if you go to any like local hardware store like I did, I went to Ace, Lowe's, Home Depot, I could not find a 7/8 drill bit. But I did have a Milwaukee stepper bit that I ended up using that maxed out at 7/8, and that drill bit actually just drilled right through the knuckle without any effort. The only downside is you just have to drill it from the top and the bottom, which isn't that big of a deal. It took about, I don't know, 45 seconds for me to drill that hole, and it was easy. The bit was like 50 bucks. It's kind of pricey, but it's a good bit. I've had that bit for, I don't know, 7-8 years, and I've never had to replace it. So it's money well spent for that bit, unless you have a 7/8 drill bit at your house already. As far as driving characteristics, the driving characteristics of the Jeep haven't really changed. I did notice, and this is my fault, and I'm ashamed to say I'm a mechanic because I can't even fix my own car properly, but I did leave my upper track bar bolt loose when I installed the relocation kit, and then I noticed it when I came here today to shoot this video. So I did tighten it, but it wasn't like insanely loose, but it was allowing some slack or play in the axle. So I'll probably make an updated video or a long-term video of this kit to see how it wears, how it rides over time. All right, future Colin here. After finding out that my track bar was loose and tightening it up and then driving it home after recording, I can actually say that the bump steer is a lot better. I think that track bar being loose probably created a bump steer issue because the axle had some slop in it. But it's also very windy right now. I don't know if it'll pick up through the mic, but I can't tell as far as like road wandering or anything like that if that's gotten better just because of how windy it is. But regard what I said about the bump steer. The bump steer has been alleviated quite a bit after I tightened up that track bar. So back to the video. As far as driving characteristics, there's still a lot of bump steer. Again, that could be caused by the loose bolt that I left on the track bar. Kind of tough to align this because when you are aligning it, you're adjusting your toe and you're messing with the jam nuts. The alignment doesn't like to stay. It's constantly changing just because of how much sway is in the ball joints of the tie rod ends on this. Barnes4WD also states on their website that if you want to install this kit with 17-inch wheels, that you're going to need a wheel that has a 0 offset, or you're going to have to run an 1.5 inch spacer. I run aftermarket fuel wheels, and I don't know the offset exactly, but they are 17-inch wheels. I did run into this issue. So when you're turning the wheel full lock, the inside barrel is going to smack the jam nuts of the tie rod, and that's probably why they want you to put wheel spacers or run 0 offset wheels. What I did on the tie rod is on the passenger side, there was a groove. I'm not sure why that groove was there, but I cut the tie rod. I cut about a 1/4 inch off right where that groove is on that tie rod. And that allowed the jam nuts to come in further. So when you do full lock, the inner wheelbarrow actually clears. It doesn't smack the jam nuts. And it just barely kisses the ball joint or the tie rod ends. So I just put a couple washers in the steering stops on both sides. And that alleviated it. So I don't have to run wheel spacers. I don't need to buy new wheels. I just slightly modified the tie rod end, and I have about an 1/8 inch less thread holding the tie rods in, which isn't that big of a deal in my opinion, because the tie rod ends, they have quite a bit of thread on them, and that fixed the issue. So if you don't want to buy new wheels or get wheel spacers, but you still want to run this kit, all you have to do is modify it. I did take my time. I made sure that cut was perfectly square because, again, you do have a jam nut that is, you know, holding that thing locked in place. So you want to make sure that your cut is square if you do that. And I doubt Barnes 4-wheel drive will warranty that tie rod after you do that. But, you know, if you don't want to spend a stupid amount of money on wheel spacers and have to deal with them every time you want to do your brakes, or, you know, I just don't trust wheel spacers, or you don't want to buy new wheels, that's an option as well. I haven't seen anybody cover that online. So my overall opinion on the kit is, you know, I'd probably give it like a 6 or 7 out of 10. I think that they could redesign or re-engineer the tie rod in order for you to run factory offset wheels without having to run wheel spacers and without having to modify it in order for it to work on this. I know Metal Cloak makes a really good kit. I just didn't want to pay for it, but they do make a dogleg tie rod that's a 1-ton kit that's really nice. And I think if this kit doesn't work out, I think I will be going with the Metal Cloak kit. But, you know, I figured I'd take my chances and see what happens. Ride quality stays the same. I think if you're running a 3-inch lift or less, to just get the standard mount for the drag link. If you're running, you know, more than 3 inches, you could probably get away with doing the flip kit because you would have extra clearance from your axle to your frame in order to accommodate that track bar relocation kit. But, you know, for the money, granted, the flip kit is $400 plus you're gonna have to buy a relocation kit for the track bar, which is another $150. I'm in it about $700 plus tax. And, you know, for the money, it's probably a well worth upgrade, especially considering that OEM tie rods and drag links on these from Mopar are, you know, close to $1,000 on their own. So it saves you a little bit of money, you beef up your steering, and it looks cooler in my opinion. So yeah, if you guys have any questions or concerns or want to know any info about the install or anything like that, just leave it down in the comments. I'd love to answer them for you. Thanks for watching.